Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in.
Today we're speaking with Neel Vasavada. He's a returning guest. So that's exciting. The second
Mhm.
returning guest. And yeah, we're excited to speak to him. He's been very active in live event production, so in music powering big stages, and he's been really leading the charge here in North America. But also recently, he's been on the ground in a first responder scenario during the LA wildfires with his renewable energy power equipment, working with his own gear and other vendors. And so, yeah, he's a really interesting guy. I'm
Hmm.
excited to speak to him.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've seen his updates swirling around on social media. He's been out there with
Hmm.
the LA Fire Department and other folks, and I think he's contributing to the Footprint Project, which
Yeah.
is an effort to provide clean tech on the ground in various regions of the world. But this one was specifically focused in LA. So he's out there doing great stuff, and so excited to hear what he's up to and have him back on the show.
Yeah. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hi, Neil. Welcome back to the tie-in. Happy to have you.
Hello, Zena and Mark. Nice to see y'all.
Yeah. Hey, Neil, nice to see you again. We speak somewhat regularly, but it's always good to get you on the podcast. You're our second returning guest. And
Mhm.
yeah, we look forward to checking in and hearing a little bit about what you've been up to. First, for our listeners who may not have heard the first podcast, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and on Overdrive?
Sure. My name is Neel Vasavada. I'm the founder and co-founder and CEO of Overdrive Energy Solutions. We have grown to be the largest deployer of sustainable energy in U.S. concerts, the nine largest renewably or near zero emission stages in U.S. history. And also we've done uh, the largest renewably powered festivals to date so far. It's been a great ride. Our whole focus is to reduce and eliminate the use of um, internal combustion engines, diesel and gasoline engines in live events and live entertainment. And we've been doing this for how long? We've been doing this for about uh, 3 years now. We had two complete seasons so far, and uh, and yeah, it's been going absolutely incredibly. I feel like at the end of 2024, we've really demonstrated that renewably powered concerts and festivals can actually be more reliable. They can be
Yeah.
uh, they can be safer and obviously a lot cleaner and healthier, and now actually more cost effective than
Mhm.
running
Yeah.
pure diesel. So,
And we'd love to
you
get
know,
into
that's a
some
bit
of those
about us.
numbers. Yeah, we'd love to get into some of those numbers a little bit later as
Curious,
well.
Neil, I hear you
Thank
talk
you.
about concerts and festivals, but other live events. Curious if you're also in sports world and doing anything there.
So we have done um, I was at the Green Sports Alliance
Hmm.
event last year, and I'm trying to think. I feel like we've done about 70 events now, and I know that there was some sports uh, stuff mixed in there. We haven't done any large sports, but honestly, at this point, it's all about scaling. Right now,
Hmm.
Overdrive has got as I sit here right now, we have shows, major shows booked every pretty much every weekend between March 15th and end of October, save for a gap in June and I think a couple weeks in August. So our focus is really to pick the clients that are going to have the biggest impact
Hmm.
on sustainable energy.
But some of your clients are the biggest clients
Yeah, I know.
in
I always
in
see you
production, right?
associated with big ones, so that you know.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's what we're known for. And I mean, I'm pretty transparent about this. Overdrive seeks to do large, impactful events because we, we are 100% confident after our what we've done in the last, 3 years that sustainable energy, near zero emissions technology is actually a better overall way to power our events than diesel
mhm,
generators. That's our focus, is finding the opportunities to show people at
mhm,
scale that this works. There's been a lot of excellent work done by people before us.
mhm,
And they paved the way. But the problem that we saw getting into this early was that, I mean, everyone says, well, that's great. You can power that little thing, but you can never, you can't power a big stage. I mean, 12 months ago, I was in a conversation at a music sustainability panel at a conference, and someone said, it's going to be some time till we can really power stages with batteries. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So we went and did 7 of them this year.
mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that you're taking that info and then you're just proving the point. Um, because
Well,
we,
you asked for some numbers. I do have some. This is actually I haven't compiled the entire season, only stuff that we did with our partner, reverb.org, which is an organization
mhm,
that promotes sustainability in live events. With them alone, 16,000 gallons of diesel avoided, um, you know, over, um, what is this now, 22 megawatt hours of energy delivered. I think that was 144 tons of CO2 eliminated, and that's just on one, two, three, four, five, six, uh, six major festival stages out of, like I said, the nearly 70 events that we've done.
mhm. So it's a lot. It's a lot. You're saving a lot of carbon out there.
It's a lot. They've been 100% reliable. And, data is a big part of what we do. So every
Yeah.
single event we do is logged. And in fact, what a lot of people don't see is our software and data platforms that we're developing. The focus is to make sustainable energy friction-free, make it as easy or actually easier than deploying diesel generators. And, I think we're there at this point, which is why it's so important to do impactful events, to show people that it's really not. I think I said this on the last podcast with you guys. This is not a technological issue. It's not even a cost issue. At this
Mhm,
point, it's a cultural issue. And again,
mhm.
Yeah.
we have the data and the experiences. And by the way, we do this in front of 50 to 100,000 people. So it's not
It,
exactly, it's hard to hide.
And
yeah,
live, like
let's
real time, no reshoots. It's got to happen.
exactly. So let's just again t talk us through how what kind of production is a 50,000 person production? We got like, is it like the largest stage, or a medium size? Are you doing the full entire site power, or are you just mainly focusing on sort of the main stage, highest value, lighting, sound? You're doing the board. Like, I mean, just sort
It
of,
depends on the event. So we simply don't have enough gear at this point to do a large festival. Right now, festivals up to maybe 10,000, 15,000 people, like Luck Reunion, which is Willie Nelson's festival at his ranch in Texas. We do ourselves. We did the music deployment at South by Southwest last year, 100%. We did Neil Young's Harvest Moon Festival ourselves.
nice.
But for larger festivals, we're doing at this point maybe 30 to 50% of the power, typically one large stage.
Yeah.
The largest stages we've done have been stage line SAM 575s, which is sort of like it's a larger stage,
Yeah.
not the biggest, but it's not necessarily the size of the stage. We've already deployed 1600 amps at 208. We do multiple 400 amp services. So there really isn't a size of stage that we can't do. And also we do a lot of the site stuff. And actually, the stage is where you get the attentions, but the site stuff is where you get a lot of the
Yeah.
benefits. So food and beverage at Camp Flogna at Dodger Stadium. One of the stages, the flog stage, was in an area called Lot 1, and we decarbonized the whole area. So all the food and beverage, all the VIP, the stages, the sponsor activations, everything was run on renewable energy systems. Or like when I say near zero, that's because sometimes we hybridize a generator.
Hmm.
And in those cases, we get 90 to 95% fuel reduction and 99% emissions reduction over what they're typically doing. But it's not right to call it sustainable because we are using, a couple hundred versus a couple thousand gallons of diesel.
I love how
That's
you said that.
sustainable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like I've said this before, but sustainability is like something we're always trying to work toward. We're never gonna like ever totally reach like zero impact because there's, embedded carbon in lots of things and processes and manufacturing and all the stuff. So like all of that, but like reducing the emissions by 90%, 95%, big win, right?
Yeah, and
So,
and it's been we repeat it now. I think we've had four major stages where we're sitting around those numbers.
hmm
Um, I also think it's important to be transparent in what we do because there's so many, there's so much skepticism that, and here's the best part though, we don't have to, um, you know, we can afford to be very transparent and probably conservative in what and how we report things, um, because the results are that good. When I say 99%, and by the way, I mean, listen, I get feedback from people, and people occasionally think that what we say is huge or even boastful. And a number like 99% certainly sound like you're boasting about something, right? But let's break that down for a second. With Tier 4 F diesel generators, you get 80 88, 89% reduction in particulate emissions, similar reductions in oxides and nitrogen. By the way, that is my background. I worked in diesel engine emissions 30 some years ago. But so when you take that and a 95% reduction in fuel, you do the math, it really is over 99% reduction, in those things. So we can afford to be um,
Mhm.
fully transparent about what we're doing. And that's one of the things I would like to see more of in the sustainable world right now is you realize that in sustainable energy activations, Overdrive is really the only ones who have shared the results from what we've done. We hear a lot of great work being done at festivals in Europe and things like that, and I don't want to take anything away from them. I'm sure that there are probably really good reasons that I don't know that people are hesitant to share the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But at some point, we have to be able to, because again, this is materially a better solution than diesel generators. And if they weren't, AEG, Google, you know, big names like this wouldn't be coming back to us again and again and again.
And you wouldn't be doing like whatever you said, 60, 70, whatever number of events every year.
Yeah,
And
and you mentioned smaller events. Actually, I do want to talk about that for a second.
yeah,
Mhm.
So we do a lot of smaller events, and we do that, for R&D. So I happen to live in Santa Monica, California, and during the summer, especially if we don't have an event, which is getting, less and less, we will do community events on the beach.
Yeah.
We'll do nonprofit events. We go to Burning Man every year, and we deploy units and systems at no cost there. So there are lots of places where we do smaller events. And then there's stuff that just isn't on the radar of the live events industry, but we do a lot of experiential marketing work. We did the ESPY Awards after party this year. We've done stuff with, we've done brand activations for people like, I believe, Spotify and Warner Music Group and other things too. But that's the thing with sustainable energy right now is we can talk about that all day, or we could talk about construction, or we can talk about something that I think we're going to talk about in this
Yeah.
podcast, which is the U.S. Forest Service and the LA County Police Department. We
Absolutely.
can talk about all that,
yeah,
but nothing I say is as impactful as what Billie Eilish says on stage.
yeah.
Yeah, and you still need those voices, right? I mean, I think that's actually the beautiful thing about folks like Billie Eilish, Coldplay. They're able to get out there and they've got the audience there and they're able to send that message. Um,
Well, and it
yeah,
makes
I
it
think it's critical to have
cool.
them.
Like it
Yeah.
makes
Here's
all
here's
this
your
cool.
here's the Easter egg for all of your people then, and for you too. Can you see that? Oh no, you
It's
can't.
blurred. There it
There you
is,
go.
bubbles and bass.
Bubbles and base sticker, folks.
Uh,
Boom.
Anyone who knows what that is.
we just
Anyways.
we spoke with Athena Demos. I don't know. Do you know Athena? She does
They don't.
Big
BlackRock
Rock.
City virtual
Yeah.
reality. Well, she does. It's called Burner Sphere, but it's
Oh yeah.
all
Uh-huh. Yeah,
VR
okay, I know
done
that.
on the playa
Oh my
and
gosh.
super cool. So just we got a burner theme this
We
week.
do. We
But you
do.
know what? It's a very harsh environment
Yeah,
with a lot of sun and no resources really to deal with things over there. It's a very fluid environment. And, if we can make our gear work there, we can make it work anywhere.
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, one just quick question since we last spoke, but any further insight into how you're communicating your message to the appropriate folks within these large organizations? Like, again, you mentioned AEG, but I mean, any of these groups are probably similar structure. Because, there's a lot of, in the early days, it's always like, okay, who do you speak with? And then the sustainability person is, in a closet down the hallway with no influence. Or so are you still working with the sustainability departments, or is this going to the top lines of the production folks who are just like, yep, we need the power, you're a guy, let's go.
Honestly, it's the production people that we work with. Sustainability departments, are definitely our friends and advocates, but they don't always have the power and authority to push,
Mm,
some of the activations forward. I don't want to. That said, like I do want to, specifically call out the sustainability department at AEG. They have been fabulous. Eric Disler and Megan Tierney, um, and they've really helped move this along. But you got to sell the production managers. And at this point, it's not even about outbound sales because it works to the level with accomplished, well regarded production managers that if anyone has questions about the efficacy, affordability, whatever of these technologies, I would rather have them talk to the staff, from Luck Reunion or South by Southwest or Coachella, than try to sell them on stuff. And Mark, one of the reasons why is that we're getting to the point in sustainability where there's enough people who want it that we don't have to spend time with people who are
yeah,
overly skeptical. And
yeah,
they might be skeptical for good reasons, but let their skepticism be addressed through what they see in the marketplace. Let their skepticism be addressed by what they see their colleagues and everyone else doing. Um, there are enough people who have the buy-in that we can focus on those and grow from there.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well said.
100%. And I feel like music world is moving fast. I mean, just in terms
Yeah,
of your, the use of your gear over the last few years, it sounds like it's just, you're booked out this year and manufacturing more, right? So it's just constantly um, growing, scaling, a lot of uptick in music world.
Well, I mean, again, and you can tell, guys, that I've gotten a lot of it. So I'm going to bring up that boastful word
Do it.
again.
This is why
please.
not?
This-
But
Yeah.
these are well, I mean, as an engineer, I'm a verbose engineer, but I do want the results, the quantitative results,
Hmm.
to do as much of the talking as possible. So when you hear the stuff that we say, the number of stages, the amount of diesel, the amount of CO2 and everything like that, realize that they may sound boastful, but they're also quantitative data. And we've
yeah,
even had third parties evaluate that data, and work with us on it. So really, it's about people who are comfortable. It's not about whether it works. It's not about
mhm,
whether it's affordable. It's really what's your comfort level.
yeah. And
And
change is uncomfortable for folks, especially when there's a lot on the line, right? And they have their go-to vendors, their go-to diesel generators, or whatever it is, which gives them comfort, right? So getting out of that comfort zone is half of the battle here. And what you've been doing, along with some other key vendors that we all know as well, have been laying the groundwork for people to feel at ease with this new technology, right? So you're not just showing up with a box of batteries, you're doing the full service. I mean, you're you know from
well,
from
the
start to
funny part
finish.
about that, Mark, is that it's not really what we set out to do. We're a technology company first and foremost,
Hmm.
and we our unique vision that we bring to this, or I should say, our unique background that we bring to this, is that me and my co-founders, we're all people with music background, but also sustainability background. So I am a mechanical engineer who worked in hybrid electric vehicles and electric vehicles, and control systems and data systems before I pivoted to live events. And then I worked with very large productions, so major music festivals, large stadium tours. My business partner, Sean Jacobs, he has a master's in electrical engineering, working with solar and battery technologies. Um, and then he went on to tour with Roger Waters, Rolling Stones, Coldplay, people like that. Boxer is he's a longtime production manager, runs one of the best and the most respected labor companies in our business, Bigger Hammer. We're now part of Rock Labor, and he's also he's a conservationist. He has
Yeah.
PV on the office, on his home, drives EVs. So we have this odd mix of backgrounds. Uh, we know the demands of touring, and we also know the technology behind electrification. That's where our confidence
Yeah.
comes from, is
Yeah.
that background. And we're trying to take that and spread it and show people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we pivot to all the good that you've been doing out there in the LA area? Can you tell us about your work with the LA Fire Department and other groups and sort of the disaster um, relief effort that
Yeah, and
you've
actually
been
that's
taking?
so let me start by saying that, a lot of the focus is on renewable technology, and a lot of people talk about things like solar or batteries or things like that. But the simple fact is that using energy storage, which in our case is, batteries, um, is materially a better way to provide portable mobile power, and the benefits are way more than sustainability. That's what drove what happened in the last month. So we, I live only 3 miles south of where the evacuation zone was for the Palisades fire, and when it started, I mean, this directly affected us and friends of ours. My son has friends who are in his Boy Scouts troop that lost their homes. We know other people, from our industry that lost their homes and stuff. And on the second day of the fires, we got a call from Footprint Project, which is a not-for-profit. I think you've had Will on
Yeah.
your podcast before.
We haven't,
Um,
but
We've
I've
oh,
not,
been,
yeah.
but
we
You know
should.
Will.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I'm a
we got
big
a call
fan.
from them asking, I'd reached out to them, said, what do you guys need? We're here. And they asked us to go to a fire station in Calabasas, meet up with a couple folks from Tesla who were also helping them out, and see if we could get them power, because they had no diesel generator and they had no power. And that quickly snowballed. Um, by um, by the end of that week, I think we had taken 16 generators offline in Topanga Canyon, Zuma Beach, Will Rogers, and then at the Rose Bowl Center, and they were all to solve very specific problems. Um, None of them were sustainability.
Right.
I mean, we had a lot of carbon going up in the air. This wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't our issue. So the first is grid resiliency. I mean, we lost a lot of power. There was no power in a lot of places, so we had to get
Hmm.
temporary power going fast. And when you deploy uh, diesel generators, you know, um, even for light loads, they have to be fueled often. As people who are familiar with diesel generators may know that they actually burn a significant amount of fuel. Even at low loads. Their peak
Especially low loads.
efficiency is
Yeah.
probably around 80%. And in our industry, and what we found out in the disaster relief industry, they're sitting there running at 10, 20% all the time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the first thing was fuel logistics. There was a number of issues with fuel logistics, and by using battery systems, we could reduce their need to refuel. Um, the second was grid resilience. There were places where power was coming on and off. That's another way we could help. So it wasn't just providing power where people had lost it, but it was also um, helping keep the power on when they had other sources. And then there was a significant um, uh, health and wellness, I guess we'd call it, portion, but not what you might think. At Rose Bowl, that site was run by the U.S. Forest Service, and they had quite a few office trailers and things set up with diesel generators next to them.
Hmm.
Um, the health and safety people were actually concerned about the noise and the fumes, in some areas. And in other areas, it was just the people in the offices, they're working all night and all day. One of the areas that we helped specifically out was a GIS trailer. This is 24/7. They're getting mapping data in real time, printing out maps and providing people with or providing the firefighters with their guidance and everything like that. And imagine doing that in a very, very, fluid environment where people are losing their homes and you've got a very large diesel generator and the exhaust noise coming into your trailer 24/7. There were sleeping quarters. There were there was food and beverage and other things where having a loud generator, spewing diesel fumes was just making for an environment that was unnecessarily difficult to work in.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so, at the end of the day, we saved over 3,000 gallons of diesel. But most importantly, we made those areas more resilient and a better working environment for the people who
Hmm.
are there. And that's what we did at the base camps. Up in Topanga Canyon, we were providing providing backup power for the fire station and for the emergency operations center and for the community center. So there's other areas where we helped out. We helped deploy another unit up in the Palisades where the firefighters were working in a home. Mark, that was really interesting because it was a home that had a solar system. But when
Yeah.
the grid goes down and the solar system goes down,
Yeah.
these solar inverters wouldn't come back online until they saw 240 volts. So what we did was we deployed a system to get
It
the
boosted.
solar system on the building back up online and recharge so they can operate off grid.
Solar boost.
So there's a lot of
So,
little weird different problems, but these are tools to solve problems.
Yeah.
well, exactly. And that's like, you're learning every day out there, right? You're just like new and this, I mean, just like, is there any new sort of like, you're sitting there going, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, or just not, obviously it's a disaster, but when you're looking at the gear and doing the deployment, did you learn anything new that you hadn't have known before? Or is it more just like putting it into practice now that you had this
All the
opportunity?
time and uh, new things, interesting applications. And that's another thing, right? Is that being in the application space, all right, being with the gear in use is where you really learn.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of our advantages. We're two embedded engineers there. So I'll tell you about an interesting one, and it's probably the most lighthearted, fun thing that we did in a very not fun time.
Yeah.
A koi pond, a badass koi pond. It was something like the way the guy described. I mean, there must have been 40 fish in that thing. Some of them 50 years old.
Wow.
Um, the houses on either side of this property burnt down. And the funny part, it wasn't actually a huge house. I was pretty shocked when I walked in here and saw this koi pond, which was something like 10,000 gallons, maybe more, and all these fish and everything. But practical here now. They have got four pumps, two 5,000 gallon uh, holding tanks where, sediment would settle down. They had filters, they had oxygenators, all this stuff, and these fish were going to die and it was going to be a really stinky, nasty mess. Not the worst problem that people are having there, but still, if we could do something about it, we wanted to do something about it. And what did we learn there? Um, so first, we brought a inverter system that was, one of these commercial or one of these not commercial, one of these like consumer sort of units, a 3,000 watt, uh, you know, that you could buy on Amazon or something that was provided to us. And the inrush current of those pumps,
Yeah, exactly.
even though the constant draw was only 1,000 watts, when those pumps came on, it just shut the whole thing down.
5x, whatever. Yeah.
We brought in one of our own units, which is which has what's called a transformer-based inverter, which is bigger, heavier, a little bit more of a
Yep.
pain in the ass, and was only rated at 2,000 watts versus 3,000 for the other unit that we brought in. And because of the technical details on how an inverter based versus, I'm sorry, a transformer based inverter works versus transformerless, which is much more common in the lower price stuff. Um, it didn't even flinch. So think about this for a second. A 3,000 watt unit that on paper says that it can handle 6,000 watt surges, even though the constant draw on the pump was a third of their rating, it wouldn't work at all. We bring in another unit that's only rated at 2,000 watts. And if you look at the spec sheet, you put these two spec sheets together, certainly less capable in every single measure. Yet it ran everything just fine. Actually, it might still be running everything. I haven't checked their data yet,
Yeah.
but and just ran that, handled the inrush and everything because of the style of technology.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that you just don't find out until you really roll your shirt sleeves up and get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And pumps as well, right? It's not like you're powering pumps all the time at music festival or anything like that. Maybe a
Actually, we
water
do.
dispenser.
So
Yeah.
this was, I mean, it wasn't entirely novel because we power pumps that run drink refill stations
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
music festivals, and we have seen those loads before. But when we ran the pumps previously, we always ran them with our gear that had those transformer-based inverters, so we never had a problem.
Got it. All right. And then from a non-technical standpoint, what was it like? How did you slot in and start just working with the wildfire? Was like department, was there a chain of command that you kind of fit into, or did you just have to go out there and just kind of wildcat it and figure out where to put the gear? Like, how
No,
does
it was
that
the
look out in
opposite.
the field these days?
That was one of the odd things about it, to kind of still get our heads around, is that it wasn't the command structure that reached out to us. It was boots on the ground. Once the word kind of started spreading, and we were also distributing Starlink units. Tesla gave us a number of Starlinks to give to first responders, police, firefighters. They started passing around our numbers and calling us because they had power needs that were not getting solved. They had communication needs that weren't getting solved. And then through that, um, we got introduced to a number of captains and incident commanders, and I mean, realize here, we're not in the purchasing systems, we're not vetted suppliers or anything to these people, but in the moment, and we were there. There was a time when I was up in Topanga and the uh the canyon across the canyon from us was on fire, and there's helicopters coming in, and I looked to my right. We're at the fire station 69, and these guys are telling jokes and, like eating the newest batch of sandwiches that come in. I was like, all right, well, if they're not worried, we, I guess, shouldn't be too worried. But that's where all those requests came from, is being at those places and, servicing them in the field, right where they were. Um, And then what happened was we got introduced to the logistics team at the U.S. Forest Service at Rose Bowl, and the director of the U.S. Forest Service happened to be visiting from Washington, D.C. So we set up a quick demo, spoke to them about what we could do, spoke to gave a little presentation to the director, and they were like, yeah, we'll figure out a way to get this going. So we did. And, you know, for the LA firefighter and the LA County Sheriff stuff, within a week or so, they got their own, you know, departments and assets online to the point where they can service the stuff, and then they took over. Forest Service, they left the once the incident died down, it became a FEMA site, and we have a whole we kind of we tore down when they tore down there. But it was all word of mouth. Footprint Project was also heavily involved in this, so it was word of
Mhm.
mouth through them.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you guys still working with them? Have units deployed, all of that, or has it tapered
I
off?
think the koi pond is the last one.
The koi
We had the other thing we learned about these incidents is that power actually comes back sooner than we expected. And it was funny too, because the whole time, everyone's saying it could be months. And I think it was probably, the day before power started coming back on in places in the Palisades, we were being told it's going to be months. And at this point, I don't know for sure, but a lot of the areas that we were actually, I'll say, all the areas that we were deployed in now have power again. So so I think we learned a lot about how the dynamics of these things work as well.
Yeah. Wow, what an experience, Neil. Thank you for sharing that information. It's just, Zena and I talk right now on the podcast a lot about, there's a lot of news about LA and the exodus of film, and it's hard to make a go at it, and it's so on. And so, this is just another sort of like challenge that's faced. I mean, what are you hearing right now? And what are people talking about LA and about its future right now? Because we know there's lots of stuff happening with the Olympics coming up and so on. But yeah, there's definitely a an interesting time in LA history.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is still a land of dreamers.
Yeah,
And also, what's really changed about LA too in the 30, 25 years I've lived here, uh, is uh, is it attracts some of the best and brightest these days in
yeah,
tech and everything else. So um, there's a lot of, this has been a huge tragedy and there's been a lot of suffering. But it's really cool to see the community getting back to work and also talking about the future. Like, what are we going to do to gain resilience?
yeah, yeah,
Um, to do things better. Um, and I think that this also speaks to a bigger thing that should involve all of us, including the two of you, which is that um, we have a platform. We have a platform to show people how things could be better. And I mean, I've said this in the past. I'm probably going to upset a few of my sustainability consultant friends, but the music industry is not a place that's ever going to be that sustainable unless we decide to get rid of fan and artist travel, which we did over the pandemic. And how did that work out for everybody? Right? I mean, the simple fact is moving people takes carbon. And if we're going to have
mhm,
people come to shows, we're going to have artists come to shows, it's always going to be the case. And
Hmm.
all the stuff that we do at stages and everything like that pales in comparison to people
Exactly.
flying to
Hmm.
Glastonbury or something. Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
But that's not the point. And this is not, and listen, if you ever hear anyone like, engaging in, I don't know, carbon shaming, have your
carbon
your
shaming.
spidey senses tingling because that's not the point. The point is that we can show the world. We can show, and we did show the disaster relief community.
Hmm.
We can, show construction. We can show off-grid living or, and even, sailboats or wherever we're using diesel and gasoline engines to generate power, that there is a better way.
I love that folks from the creative community were out there, helping with, disaster relief and saying, "Hey, we've got this tech that we use on, music festivals. You can use it here. We can help you here." That kind of thing. The crossover, I think, when you start looking at it and where people are using power, what they're needing it for, and that sort of thing, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Well, one of our big partners out there was, well, two of them were heavily involved in the film industry. One was King Kong Productions. They have about 10 large BESS units that they provided to the Rose Bowl. And another one was Avon, which, rents trucks and they provide us with also a solar powered um, travel trailer that was
Nice.
like a cast and crew trailer that uses our operations base. Tesla, they provided um, 10 mobile power units, which are essentially two power walls on a skid, and a mega pack. So
Yeah.
one of the large mobile mega packs. So there was a lot of people who came together, from other places. Like I said, you had hardware suppliers, you had nonprofits like Tesla, and we had, deployment people, rental companies, kind of all come together. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful to see. I mean, this is what needs to happen, and it's just one big community, right? I mean, everybody's in it together, and we're working together to make it happen. Yeah, we're sort of battling our competition, right, or
Sort of
way's. It's
territorial
so much
nature
and
territorial
of it all.
competition, right?
Yeah.
it's really interesting, like I actually had, so I was supposed to be on a on a panel at a trade show where another energy supplier had paid for sponsorship.
Mm.
And when that energy supplier got wind of me also being on the panel, they said, well, no, we paid for sponsors. We're the energy experts. We can't do this. And, I sent them an email and I said, listen, we're not competing. Our competition is diesel generators. All right. And we need to, as an industry, come together and focus on that. So, that's what I'd say is that this collaboration and everything that we're talking about, remember what our common goal is. It's not to be the biggest um, uh, renewable supplier in any one industry. Our goal is to displace this
Hmm.
dated, less efficient, more expensive, more unsafe, less reliable technology. And by doing
Geopolitically,
that,
also.
we will find that success. So I'm not saying that we're not going to make money and that we're not going to find that success, but you gotta focus
Yeah.
on we're gonna on that, and that's where that cross-disciplinary thing comes into play. Is that if we work together, you know, we really can take and we can grow this market. Um, and that's what was so cool about having all these different suppliers come together. It's easy to say, wow, how nice for the community to get together. And I don't want to take anything away from that, but like let's go a layer deeper and say, watch as people learn from each other to move this entire endeavor forward. Not,
Hmm.
from a sustainability case, but also from a business case.
Totally. That's like a whole new order of doing business, a whole new order of collaboration. So yeah, it's super cool, Neel. Thank you for all the work that you're doing out there. Honestly,
Mhm.
like it's neat to hear your story on the ground, doing this work and what you have in store, like ahead for this year. That's
Yeah, what's
super
next?
exciting.
Well, let's
Like,
see here. We've got Luck Reunion coming up in March. We got Coachella after that. I mean, like I said, our our dance card right now is pretty full. And that's sort of our focus is growing and scaling so we can support more customers, more industries, and more vendors.
Hmm.
Our overall goal and a lot of people don't realize, like I said, is we're a technology company. We're designing software and hardware products that are exclusive and that are informed by our, sort of oddball upbringing as both live entertainment professionals and engineers.
mm,
Um, and, you know, um, what's really ahead of for us is now being able to um, enable other people to use our products. What we really want to do now is, at the end of the day, there are some, you look at the people who are providing temporary power. I think, it's a $33 billion market serviced by huge companies. Again, Sunbelt, Agreco, and um, United are all multi-billion-dollar companies. Um, this is cultural change, and we are hoping to help show them that these products and our products in particular can solve these problems, um, and can serve their clients better than diesel generators.
It's all possible,
yeah, I
right?
love it, Neil.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much for speaking with us, and we look forward to following your progress over the next year, and also hopefully running into you at one of the festivals, and get some behind the scenes
totally.
action. So yeah, that'll
You
be
guys are
something that we'll.
always welcome, and I really appreciate the work you all are doing. I'm going to say it one more time. It's a cultural endeavor.
Hmm.
Yeah,
We've got the
sure is.
technology, we've got the gear, we've got the cost in order, and we need folks like you continuing this conversation, moving it forward.
Hmm. Awesome,
Yeah,
Neel. Thank you
thank you,
so
Neil.
much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
talking to you.
All right,
Yeah.
take care, guys.
All
All
right, take
right.
care. Bye
Bye.
bye. Thanks for listening, everybody. We love to put these podcasts on, and we love to hear from you. You can listen on your favorite preferred podcast platform. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach out through our website, www.tieinpodcast.com. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Our producer is Colin Miller.